Hi, and welcome to the Percussion Performance Technique video series. My name is Jacob Science. Like you, I started my percussion experience in middle school band, and throughout high school was very active in UIL competitions, region and area tryouts, solo and ensemble contests, and at the collegiate level, I received private instruction, performed with the concert band, jazz bands, and outside of school, performed with many different bands of various musical styles. I also spent some time in drum corps playing snare drum, and I've also performed with wind ensembles and symphony orchestras in the Corpus Christi and Austin areas. Now, getting into the goal of this video series, we'll talk about fundamentals of many of the percussion instruments that you'll play throughout your middle and high school experience. There are 5 videos in this series, and each video will focus on a different area or a different instrument of technique. Now, the contents of this first video will be looking at technique for stick grip and 3 basic snare drum rudiments. Let's begin at the beginning. Stick grip and fulcrum with snare drum sticks. We first need to find the fulcrum for each drumstick. To do so, we're looking for the sweet spot. This spot will allow the most rebound from the stick. To do so, start with your index finger and place the stick within the first fold of your index finger. Let the stick bounce. I'll adjust the stick to see where I can get the most rebound from the stick. That sounded like less, so I'll keep adjusting. Notice the further I pull back on the stick, now I'm getting less rebound. So let me bring my finger forward. Now if I go too far forward, I start to lose bounce. The sweet spot for the stick was right about here. If you're using a pair of Vic Firth Generals, a nice tip to remember is that your index finger will lay right underneath the flag logo. That's the spot that I'm getting the most rebound from the stick tip. Now, we want to lay our thumb directly on top of the flag, so it's right across from our first finger. And there's our fulcrum. Notice I can still move the stick back and forth, but there's always contact with my first finger and my thumb. My back 3 fingers will form around the stick, but I won't grip the stick. You want to make sure that your back 3 fingers are loose, but your fulcrum is always in contact with the stick. So now let's rotate our hand so that the muscle between the thumb and the hand is pointing upwards. You should still have a grip on the stick with your fulcrum and be able to let the stick tip bounce on the head. We'll repeat the same steps for the left hand. If you're using a pair of Vic Firth Generals, you can use that tip about placing your fulcrum right at the flag logo and making sure you get the most rebound from the stick tip. Squeeze on the fulcrum. Make sure your back 3 fingers are loose. Rotate your hand over. And that's the matched grip technique for snare drum sticks. And now that we have the matched grip technique down, we want to work on some basic rudiments. The first rudiment we'll look at is a single stroke. The single stroke is produced with an upstroke and a downstroke. Let's go through the technique of the upstroke. Your hand is in playing position, so the stick is held by your fulcrum, and your back 3 fingers are loose on the stick. An upstroke is produced by simply turning your wrist up and letting the stick come to about a 45-degree angle. Remember to keep your back fingers loose on the stick and keep contact with your fulcrum. The downstroke is produced by simply letting your wrist fall and the stick tip comes in contact with the head. Here's the upstroke and downstroke together. There are a few things I want you to notice about the downstroke. When the stick tip comes in contact with the head, the tip rebounds, but is kept at the playing position, which is about half an inch over the drum head. To return to the playing position without letting the stick tip bounce, I'm actually using my back fingers to stop the stick. Notice in the upstroke and the downstroke, my back fingers are loose, but as soon as the stick tip hits the head, I'll actually tighten my back fingers to stop the stick from bouncing. So it's a quick squeeze of the back fingers, and then I let go. Squeeze and release. If I didn't use my back fingers to stop the stick, I would end up with this. Think of the back fingers as the brakes on a car. Just as the brakes on a car help stop a car in motion, your back three fingers will help to stop the rebounds on the head. Another thing to keep in mind is playing area on the head. You always want to make sure that your playing area is consistent. The best area for general playing is slightly off-center. When you play multiple single strokes in a roll, you have what is called a single stroke roll. This can vary with different speeds, of course. Now, let's look at technique for the double stroke. Just as before, we start in playing position with your fulcrum holding onto the stick and your back three fingers loose. The first movement is an upstroke followed by a downstroke. However, this time, the downstroke will produce 2 rebounds instead of just 1. Now there's a bit of technique that I'd like to show you that's not in the method books. The technique involves squeezing my back three fingers after the first rebound. Now here's the upstroke and the downstroke. I'll freeze my stick right after the first rebound. After my first rebound, I'll squeeze my back three fingers to produce the second rebound. So I end up, when I put all the motions together, I have this. Upstroke, downstroke, squeeze the back three fingers, and there's the second rebound. And then I come back to playing position. So again, we have upstroke, downstroke, squeeze the back three fingers, and then let go of your back three fingers, and you're back in playing position. When I put these all together, I have this. Now notice that the first rebound is produced all on its own. I'm not pulling up on the stick. The stick is bouncing all by itself. The reason for using the back three fingers to produce the second rebound is to provide a strong second beat. Here's an example of a double stroke without using my back three fingers. Notice that my second rebound was weaker than my first. Using my back three fingers helps to create a strong second rebound. When you put the double stroke on the right hand and left hand together, you have a double stroke open roll. Here's a slow example of the double stroke open roll. Always remember that it'll take time and practice to get your double stroke open rolls at a faster tempo. But the goal in the beginning is to produce a clean and consistent double stroke open roll at a slow tempo. The last area of technique for this first video is a closed or buzz roll. The close or buzz roll is produced by allowing the stick tip to bounce on the head after the first rebound, so no back fingers are necessary. All you simply need to do is hold the stick with your fulcrum and let the stick bounce multiple times. Practice this with your right hand and left hand. The closed roll has a special formula to it, which consists of pressure of the fulcrum and speed of your rebounds. Let's take a look at this formula. If I have very light pressure on my fulcrum, I have rebounds that are very open and far away from each other. The more pressure I add on my fulcrum by squeezing the stick, the tighter the rebounds will be to each other. I'll add more pressure now. So, depending on the speed of my left and right hand playing together, I'll need to adjust the pressure on my fulcrum for each hand so that the result is a smooth roll. I'll keep the speed of my left and right hand the same, but I'll slowly adjust the pressure on my fulcrum so that the result is a nice, smooth buzz roll. Here's a little more pressure. Here's more pressure. And here's more pressure. So my pressure was probably best somewhere right in the middle. This produces the smoothest roll at that speed. If I increase my speed, I would need to increase my pressure. If my speed was something like this, I would need to use a little more pressure to produce a smooth roll. Here's too little pressure. Here's more. Here's more pressure. So the ideal pressure was somewhere right in the middle. Not too loose and not too tight. This is one rudiment that'll take a lot of practice until you're satisfied with the sound, but keep practicing to perfect it. Thank you for watching this first episode, and look for the second episode where we cover concert bass drum technique and crash cymbal technique.